Aloha and welcome back to Transfer Talk. My name is Travis and I'm here with my co-host Dr. Schwab. This series is called Homestretch and it includes the process of enrolling in and completing a capstone project, the required preparation for graduation day, and looking beyond. This is the series everyone looks forward to as it is the culmination of all of your hard work up to this point. So congratulations and a round of applause is in order. It is important to mention that I will be graduating in December. In other words, I still have one more semester to go, but I hope that I can still offer insight into what it feels like to be so close to the quote-unquote finish line and my biggest takeaways from my time at UH West Oahu. I encourage you to listen to this series if you're struggling during midterms or finals. It should help you visualize the success that you're aiming for.
So first off, congratulations, Travis, on your upcoming graduation. This marks a tremendous milestone in your academic journey. And I personally have had that privilege of attending one of your conference presentations, and I must say you did an amazing job. And I can't wait to hear your capstone presentation coming this fall. So for our listeners, this series will help you navigate these big milestones in your life, such as your capstone, and the steps you take to complete your final petition to graduate. We'll also look at what you need to prepare for if you plan to fly over to UH West Oahu and walk during the graduation commencement, which I encourage all of you to do. As an educator, it is always great to see your students graduate. It's a celebration of all the hard work that you have put in, as well as a time for your family, friends, and faculty to celebrate the investment they have made into your life and journey over the many, many years. So remember, your success is a win for everyone who has supported you along the way, and we really want to celebrate you.
And I want to say mahalo nui loa, Dr. Schwab, for those kind words. As a student, I can say that the support and the effort that faculty and staff have provided over the years is not lost on us. That is without question. So this is the time to express gratitude and thankfulness. And with that, as always, stay tuned for the next episode. Aloha.
And we'll see you soon.
So in this episode, we're going to walk you through the administrative processes to register for your capstone, how to apply for graduation, and how to walk at commencement. Each of these turning points are connected, so this segment will be your one-stop shop to guide you through the process. Capstones can vary to some degree between disciplines and concentrations, so be sure to check with your instructor and your college success advisor for any intricacies. That being said, the general flow is as follows. During your second to last semester, you have to decide which type of capstone you want to pursue. You have two options. A senior project, which is research-based, think of like a thesis paper, or a practicum, which is essentially an internship, field-based classwork. Special approval is required to enroll in a capstone course, so please, I beg you, reach out to your college success advisor sooner than later to ask any questions and to get the ball rolling. No matter what, you have to meet with your advisor to do what's called a final degree audit. But don't worry, this is a good thing. They will go through and make sure that you have completed or that you will complete all of your degree requirements before you graduate. They will also more than likely provide and help you with all of the forms to get started. Do note that practicums require some extra paperwork like consent forms. You should also definitely schedule a meeting with the instructor you want to work with on your capstone. At face value, this is because you need their approval, their sign-off, to register for the course. Again, don't stress. The instructors are there to support and guide you through this process. But I encourage you to go a step beyond. Come to that meeting with a basic research proposal or an outline if you're doing the senior project route. If that is out of the question, try to come with a list of topics and be able to articulate why you are interested in the topics and how it connects/expands on your previous coursework. By having a basic research proposal or an outline, you're showing that you are committed, that you've put thought and effort into this project before it even formally begins. That can be really empowering for all parties involved. By showing that you're excited, it will get your instructor excited as well. And it's kind of like you have a bit of a head start. So the next step, after you get the instructor's approval, the course override and star, and you complete your capstone registration, you can now submit your online graduation application. Do this sooner than later because there's a firm deadline that can sneak up on you pretty quickly. The application itself is all pretty straightforward stuff, but do note you will be charged a small diploma fee. As of recording, it is $25. Do not ignore this fee, because if you don't take care of it, a hold will be placed on your record. And I don't want that. Anuhea doesn't want that. Dr. Schwab doesn't want that. And we know you don't want that either. After your graduation application is processed, you can take a second to breathe and just focus on your work. Towards the end of your final semester, you will receive an email with all the information on how to walk at the commencement ceremony on Oahu. Now, if you can't fly over, there's always the option to walk here on Kauai CC's campus through the University Center. If you prefer that option, be sure to reach out to Rhonda and Anuhea. Now, the only remaining step is to order your cap and gown. You can do this through UH West Oahu's bookstore website, but be sure to keep your eye out for any special regalia. For example, your concentration may have a specific stole color. If you belong to any clubs or honor societies, you may have special cords. And of course, if you graduate with a 3.75 GPA or higher, you will graduate, quote, with distinction. This is UH West Oahu's formal acknowledgement of outstanding academic achievement. So, if you receive this honor, be sure to order the special regalia through UH West Oahu's bookstore as well. Now that was a lot of information, so let's do a bullet point recap once again. Step 1. During the end of your second to last semester, decide which type of capstone you want to do. Step 2. Schedule a meeting with your college success advisor to complete a final degree audit and to get the ball rolling for your final semester registration. Step 3. Schedule a meeting with the instructor you want to work with. Pitch your research topic or figure out what organization you want to work with. Ask for their registration approval. Step 4. Register for your capstone and star and submit your graduation application. Don't forget the diploma fee. Step 5. Towards the end of your final semester, follow the instructions in the email regarding commencement and order your cap, gown, and regalia. Step 6. Smile as you walk at commencement, either on Oahu or here on Kauai CC's campus. And then lastly, extra special bonus step, extend a heartfelt mahalo to your professors, to your advisor, to the support staff, your family, and anyone else who has helped you along the way. You made it. Congratulations. And I want to be the first one to tell you, I'm proud of you. Great job. And here we are, sitting down with our next guest, a dear friend of mine, the one, the only, the legend, Katie Jones. I've known Katie since around, what would you say, 2017,
Yeah,
2018?
That's about right.
We worked together in Kauai CC's Department of Marketing and Outreach. Good times. Katie is passionate about photography and design. She graduated from UH West Oahu in 2021 with a bachelor's in creative media, and she truly embodies a success story. Katie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Could you share with us your journey from Kauai Community College to the University of Hawaii, West Oahu? What was that transition and experience like for you?
Yeah, so like you said, started at KCC 2018. I had actually done a year of college several years ago off island in Missouri, and a dive job brought me to Kauai. So I taught diving for about a year and a half and then decided, hey, maybe I want to get my degree, you know. It's about time to go back and do that. I applied, got accepted, and started working on the creative media program here at KCC. Really loved it, loved the instruction, loved the flexibility, and got my associates in creative media, and then decided to go on to get my bachelor's in creative media, just the general creative media at University of Hawaii, West Oahu.
I'm curious what valuable lessons you learned during your time working for the Department of Marketing and Outreach here at KCC, and in what ways did those lessons transfer into your studies at UH West Oahu?
Yeah, I loved working out here. So I worked with the marketing director and Travis. Both of us worked as interns at the Department of Marketing and Outreach. Super valuable to actually be on campus, be here working to market the education to the community here at Kauai. The director was fantastic, taught us all of the different things about marketing, strategy, design, podcasting to speak of, posters, visual stuff, events, all of that stuff. We got to really get our hands dirty and learn so much from him.
100%. Even though I'm not necessarily in a degree pathway or a career pathway that's focused in marketing to this day, I still use so many of the lessons that we learned during that time.
I mean, one of the biggest things was how to manage clients. It was you get a big project. It's kind of a one-time project, right? One of the things that we worked on was the mail ballots for Kauai, the mail-in ballots. So we created an entire video on how to mail in your vote instead of being able to, if you didn't want to or couldn't vote in person. We created this video on how you could mail in your ballot for the county of Kauai. So the county of Kauai was actually our client. And so we got to work with them, create this whole video. It was really exciting. We learned a lot.
Can you share with us any standout classes or professors that left a lasting impact on you? The ones that would make it into your highlight reel of memories of your college experience, kind of like that campaign that we did for the county of Kauai.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, right? Because so many of the teachers were so good and so memorable, but my favorite is going to have to be Scott Kawamura. I had a couple of classes from him. He was my favorite because he actually worked and owned his own design studio. So it wasn't just he was just teaching this offhand from, I don't know, some lesson he learned from someone else. He was literally living this. And so he also would bring in other owners, other designers, and they would talk about their stories, share their experiences from zero to hero or whatever it was, how they built themselves and how they're living the dream now. And so they would tell their story and then they would open it up to questions for us. And so that was really great because it's you actually get to talk to someone who's doing something that maybe you want to do, and then you ask them okay, how did you do it? What are the cheat codes? What are the tips and tricks? He was really a great teacher to not only have his own set of success stories, but to be bringing these other business owners and entrepreneurs in so that we could talk to them too.
That's amazing.
That's super good. It brings back to the previous question that we've asked about utilizing those skills in your current career and how you learned that from Scott. And now you're seeing yourself kind of utilizing that, even though it may not be in the exact job description that you're working under.
Right.
So how would you say your experiences at UH West Oahu kind of influenced your career path?
I mean, wow, so many ways. The first thing that comes to mind is because I'm a transfer student from Kauai CC into University of Hawaii West Oahu, all of my classes were online, right? So now I'm in this remote environment where I'm engaging with people and their, teachers are teaching and, classmates are interacting in this digital world, which is tricky, right? Because there's this sort of education piece of you learn something, you get tested, you prove that you learned it. But then there's the other piece where you want to interact with people, and make friends and help each other out. And so that part really prepared me for the 2 jobs that I've had since I've graduated, which have both been remote. Because I had that experience of learning online, I was able to transition that into being successful at my jobs now.
A really good point, because a lot of times people think that you might be missing out on something when you get involved in distance education, but really you're actually getting something out of distance education too. You're building up skill sets that can transfer into the ever-changing workforce that we see happening today. And utilizing those skills, employers are looking for that. And so by being involved in the distance education program, getting that unique experience.
And it really opens the doors, right? I mean, you can always go door to door, interview in person, but if you're willing to jump on a Zoom call and take an interview that way, you know, that really opens more doors for you in your career, in your job, or if you're starting your own business. Clients don't necessarily have to be physically here. You can have clients all over the place if you're willing to put in the work of how to do Zoom calls and how to communicate via email and all of that stuff and do that effectively.
Our last question is a really cool one because we ask former students to kind of share what would be some parting words of wisdom or advice that you would want to give to a incoming transfer student who's walking in possibly the same footsteps that you tread.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. You know, it's the unknown, right? You're diving in. You're like, I don't know if I can do this. Do I want to do this? Is this the right time? Is this the right thing? Am I digging in? And absolutely it is. If you're thinking about it, do it.
That's great advice, Katie. I'm so glad that we had the chance to get caught up. It's always a good time talking story with you. And I know our listeners are going to take so much inspiration and guidance from your story.
All right. Thanks for being here, Katie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So now we're sitting down with Kalei Carvalho. Kalei is a familiar face here on Kauai CC's campus. She's an academic advisor for all Native Hawaiian students, Hawaiian Studies majors, as well as Waialeale and Kipaipai students. Kalei is an expert at distance learning. She has gone to UH West Oahu for her bachelor's degree and UH Manoa for her master's degree, all while remaining here on Kauai. Amazing. Kalei, it is great to have you on the podcast. Mahalo nui loa for taking the time to speak with us.
Mahalo.
Yes, Kalei, it's so exciting to have you here. Many of you guys might not know, but Kalei is my neighbor down at One Stop. She has an office right next to me. And so it's always nice to have her walk in and say good morning and have some great fellowship with the advisors that are there. Kalei, tell us a little bit about where you're from here on Kauai and what brought you to KCC as a student.
So I grew up on Kauai my entire life. For most of it, I grew up in Anohola, and I had a very, I would say, pretty challenging life growing up, especially financially. My parents didn't make much money, so we were really spoiled in the fact that my dad was a great diver and hunter, and so he provided for us amazing food. He was also great with growing things, so we always have fresh fruits and vegetables. But other than that, everything else was really a struggle. So it was kind of funny when COVID started and people are having a hard time getting toilet paper. That wasn't something new to me. I remember having to go to bathrooms and steal toilet paper just so we could have a necessity such as that in our house. But with that said, I really did not want to live on Kauai very much longer than I needed to. So my original intent was actually to go to the University of Hawaii at Manoa upon graduating from high school. Unfortunately, or maybe I should say fortunately, God had different plans for me. During the summer, right before I was supposed to go over to Manoa, I got a phone call saying that they had overbooked dorms and if I could stay with someone on Oahu. At that time, the only person I really knew that lived there was my grandma's 80-something-year-old sister that lived in Hawaii Kai, and there was no way I was going to cause that kind of imposition on her. I decided not to go to school, and I did not go to college right out of high school. Instead, I waited a semester. I worked during that time, and I realized that I wanted to get some prereqs done before I moved over to Oahu for the following year. Well, I took some classes here at Kauai Community College, and I absolutely fell in love with the campus, from the teachers to the students. Here at Kauai Community College, not only did they know my name, they were willing to bend over backwards just to make sure I understood the material, and I would go to them for any type of help that I needed.
So Kalei, after your great experience at Kauai Community College, what made UH West Oahu the right fit for you?
About a year into my journey at Kauai Community College, I became pregnant with my first son, who just graduated from Kabaikini this year and is attending Kauai Community College in the fall of 2024. So he's following his mom and dad's legacy.
Nice.
But he, with him being born, it wasn't realistic for me to be able to fly to Oahu or even move to Oahu or anywhere else for a degree once I completed my associates in accounting here at Kauai Community College. With that said, I spoke to the UH West Oahu counselor at that time, our academic advisor, Pua Larson, and she helped me to transition to West Oahu. And I have to say that without her, it would have been a really difficult journey because I am the second person in my family to go to college. My sister was the first one, but she physically moved to Hilo to attend school. For me, I was the first one that did any kind of transfer program that allowed me to stay on Kauai and do it through distance education. Having people that allowed or that provided that support so that I could transition and still remain on Kauai and be the mother to my child and the wife to my husband really allowed me to do opportunities I never thought was possible.
Wow, that's amazing. So you went on from UH West Oahu to also complete your master's degree at UH Manoa. So how did UH West Oahu prepare you for that next step in your journey?
Interestingly enough, it prepared me very well, even though these two degrees were completely different. So when I graduated from Kauai, I graduated with my associates in accounting. I transferred over to West Oahu and got my bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting. And then I ended up going to UH Manoa and I got my master's in education in learning design and technology. So completely different. As far as the content is concerned, the material that I actually learned in UH West Oahu, it didn't quite help me when I transferred over from my master's program, but the skills that I acquired during that time really helped to create a foundation that was vital for me in doing well in my master's program. It taught me how to manage my time. It taught me how to balance family life with school life and other priorities that I had at that time. And despite the challenges that I faced both at West Oahu and Manoa, the other thing it also taught me is that if I needed help, I needed to be the one to initiate that help because no one could read my mind. Being able to learn those skills at West Oahu and make those mistakes, because of course we're going to make mistakes, but it's really what we do after that mistake that really allows us the opportunities that we have. So with that said, what I learned at West Oahu are skills that were very helpful in my journey.
100%. Reaching out when you need help has been a constant theme throughout the podcast. You're right on the money. And speaking from experience, I've gone to my support system at UH West Oahu and Kauai CC many times when I needed help. You gotta be proactive as a distance ed student. Great insight and advice there. So with that, can you share your current role here at KCC as an advisor for Hawaiian Studies and your affiliation with the Waialeale and Ki Pai Pai programs?
So I'm actually going to start back to when I started here at Kauai Community College. Interestingly enough, when I graduated from West Oahu, I got a job in accounting. And it didn't pan out as well as I had hoped, although I loved the work itself. That particular employment wasn't the right one for me. I had come back to Kauai Community College to speak to my old supervisor, Tina Castro. As a student, I worked as a tutor in math from the time I started my associate's degree till pretty much when I finished my bachelor's. Tina and I had grown close over the years, and she recommended that I come to work at Kauai Community College. And the only job at that time that even seemed somewhat doable for me was financial aid, and even then I questioned my ability to do so. But anyways, I did the application, and interestingly enough, what I learned at that time is that the most important thing I did here at KCC wasn't necessarily getting the grades that I did, but it was networking with the right people. When I applied for Kauai Community College in the financial aid department, I asked my previous boss or supervisor, Kimo Perry, to be one of my letter of recommendations. And because he has so much respect within the community college, I came in doing pretty well at that point. And eventually I worked with all of them, and it became a really good foundation for me working here, because when I transferred over to Waialeale as a student support 3 years later, I had a lot of background, not only as a student coming in, but in the financial aid realm. And that was a really important factor in Waialeale, because the students that are accepted into that program, they are non-college bound students. they are oftentimes first generation students. Their families have no idea how to support them, even if they want to support them. So with that said, one of the biggest barriers for students, whether they're in Wai'ale'ale or not, is financial barriers. Having that background and knowing what scholarships are available and how to complete the FAFSA, which can be really daunting in itself, was really a good stepping stone for me in Wai'ale'ale. And I absolutely enjoyed that position. My heart has always been with our Native Hawaiian students, especially after taking a class here at Kauai Community College. It was an Anthropology 200 class at Nan Greer. And she mentioned in that class that without your language, your identity is lost. And I am 50% Hawaiian. The interesting thing, though, about that is I never felt Hawaiian enough until I started to learn the language. And once I did, things started to become more clear that I didn't want my children questioning their identity. So I sent them to Kawaikini. And that was always a big part of my heart. So I sat on a couple boards at Kawaikini as their treasurer. So using my accounting background here from KCC. And I knew my heart always led me back to our people. To me, if we can educate our people and raise our lahui, we raise the island. So it's not just about helping our Native Hawaiian students, it's helping our community here on Kauai. Education in a classroom setting is not something that comes naturally for our students. You put them outside and you have them work the lo'i and you have them work, go fishing, go hunting, all of that stuff. It comes really easy for them. But sitting in a classroom and having to absorb this information and then be able to test and all that stuff to get a grade that will allow you to move to the next class, it's not something that's always easy for our students. If I can help them to fill those gaps in by hosting workshops or bringing people in from the community to fill those gaps, that is what really made me happy. And so I'm really happy that in this position as the Native Hawaiian counselor, that not only will I be academic advising these students, but I will also be able to host workshops that will help these students that I hold really near and dear to my heart to advance forward, not just here at Kauai Community College, but hopefully beyond, whether it means that they stay within the University of Hawaii system or they go to the mainland. At least we know that their foundation here at Kauai Community College gave them the skills needed to be successful in whatever endeavor they take.
Yeah, it's so important to echo that. We are a university that is place-based, situated here in Hawaii. And so the context of raising up the local community to take leadership roles, to be able to step in and educate the next generation is vital to just creating the identity of who we are in our research, in our classrooms, and how we keep Hawaii Hawaii.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned earlier with your experiences at UH West Oahu that it really helped you build some skill sets and strategies that translated into even other endeavors that you had embarked on, such as getting your master's in education. In your experience, what are some of those strategies that students could use to align their values, like you have, with their future career?
Now that I'm thinking about it, after having this conversation with you folks, something that is really on my heart at this time is the ka'au framework. And that's something that we've been trying to incorporate our best with our Wai'ale'ale students. We focus on the original 4 parts. And so the first part, or the first phase in the ka'au framework is hua. And in English, that translates to fruit, the fruit that was planted that began this college journey, at least in this context. And so when I was at West Oahu, as well as Kauai Community College, there were challenging times where I wasn't sure whether or not I would be able to make it. Not to change this to a sad story, but during my associate's degree, actually, I had a second child. So my first child was conceived during my first year in college. My second child was conceived in my second year of college. But unfortunately, he passed away at 50 days old from SIDS. And so at that point, I stopped actually going to college for a little bit. And I started working. And as I worked, I realized, this is not what I want to do. I know I can do so much better than this. I felt I had more value to give to the community than being a bank teller, which is what I was doing at that time. And so I came back to school. But it was that why that drove me through those nights where I was staying up till God knows when, trying to complete work. In fact, obviously, I love a challenge. So I had a child during my last year of my bachelor's degree as well. So that was my 3rd child. And I remember there were nights where she was crying and I was crying, and I was so ready to throw in that towel. And all I could remember is why I was going to college, to provide a life that I never had growing up, as far as having that financial stability. Knowing your why, not because your parents are making you come to college, not because your aunt, your uncle are telling you, but because you have some purpose as to why you're going to be here, whether it's to make more money or to provide a better life or to support our lahui, whatever that may be. Just remember your why, especially during those challenging times. The second phase of the ka'o framework is ha'alele, and that means leave. And so how I use that with our students is I ask them, what do you need to leave behind in order to best prepare yourself for college? I tell our students about how I had to leave so-called friends behind because they didn't support my academic journey. And I'm not saying to get rid of all your friends, because that's just crazy. You need people who are going to support you through your journey. But you need to recognize who are your real friends and who are there trying to lift you up and not the ones trying to bring you down. Also, you might have to have talks with your employers like, hey, I'm going to school. These are my schedule I can set. And it seems like employers are a little bit more willing than they were when I was going to school to accommodate those. But it's really important to have those conversations nonetheless, even with your parents. Having that conversation like, hey, I'm going to school right now. I may not be able to do my chores for today, but I'll get it done as soon as I can when I come back home tonight. And it's difficult conversations, but it's conversations you have to have in order for everyone to be on the same page. And then the third phase of the ka'o framework is huaka'i, which is journey. And so the journey that you've taken thus far in college, we work with first year students. So we focus on that first year that they've gone to college, trying to identify, the ups and downs or the challenges and the triumphs, because with every triumph, you're overcoming some kind of challenge, right? So if we can remember those things, that sometimes you're going to be in the valleys, but at some point we're going to rise above that and we're going to be at that peak. We're going to be at Kawaikini. We're not going to be down in that valley very long. As long as we can just get ourselves back up, things will work out just fine. And then the last one is ho'i, reminding our students again what your plans are for going to college and what you plan to do with the community once you're done. And as you heard my story, it changed. I went from thinking I was going to go into accounting, and then I realized that my heart was really helping our students to also become educated Kanaka. Because, like I said, if we can educate our lahui, then we can educate the island. Those are four of the things I would really encourage our students to remember and reflect upon as they're going through school, so that even though you're going to go through those challenges, it's college. College is not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart. But if you can prepare yourself mentally, I think that's half the battle.
Yeah, Kalei, that was absolutely amazing. Wow. When thinking about the journey, that transition time, your final semester at KCC going into your first semester at West Oahu or any of our 4-year institutions in the UH system, are there any other goals students should prioritize when they prepare to exit from KCC?
I would say even before you reach your last semester, be realistic in what you can and cannot do. I think oftentimes it's great. People have amazing aspirations that they want to have. At the end of the day, we need to find a way to make those things a reality. So some of the other skills I would recommend is, if your plan is to, let's say, go to West Oahu, make sure that you talk to the right people so that you can have the smoothest transition possible. Make sure you have a plan in place so that it will be smooth. Without a plan, it's really just a dream. But at the same time, make sure it's doing online classes. Time management is so important. I can't even stress that enough. Here at KCC, it was a lot easier because when you went to class, teachers would remind you, hey, your assignments are due. This is your due date. And you would have those reminders. At West Oahu, especially when you're doing like an asynchronous class, or anywhere, if you're doing any type of asynchronous class, you don't get those reminders like you did. So a lot of it falls on the student in how they're going to be reminded of how to get these things done. My goal, if you would like to join me during the fall semester, is to actually have a workshop about some of the tips and tricks that I've used, but more so other students have used to help them to be successful in online classes. So for some students, it might be a digital planner. and some students, it might be a regular planner. But one of the things I highly encourage students to do that really helped me to do well is to actually book yourself an appointment. If you have an asynchronous class and the work takes about, let's say, 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week, you want to block that time out. Because I did have kids and I have a husband and he has a business, I needed to really prioritize my schoolwork when it came to doing my master's degree. So crazy enough, I would actually wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would schedule work to get done from 4:30 to 6:30. Now, that is not something I would recommend to everyone, but I'm a morning person. If I try to do homework after 8 o'clock at night, I am one grouchy person and you do not want to be around me. So you want to figure out when is the best time for you to do your work. If you're like my husband, you're a night owl, you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning and you'll do just fine. There are some students that may recognize that around lunchtime, that's when they do their best work. But you figure out when it is your best time to do the best work that you can and utilize that as best as you can. And if you're a parent, find out when those quiet times are, because sometimes it may not be exactly when you wish you could do your work, but when it is realistic, when the house is quiet enough to actually get things done. So that is one of the things I would actually highly encourage students to do, is time block time to get their work done while they're in school and treat it like a doctor's appointment. Don't miss it, because you miss it and that work is going to pile up. And instead of taking 2 hours one day, you're taking 4 or 5 hours just to get it done.
Those are great strategies. Can I enroll in that fall class that you offer? Because I think we're always looking at how to balance life and how to accomplish the goals that we set for ourselves, no matter what stage we're in. There's going to be some very valuable information provided there. So this is like a good segue into the next question that we were going to ask. As students prioritize, as they learn these things, you've been a success story. And you've also had the opportunity to walk students through some successes through Waialeale and Kipaipai. What are some examples of those stories that you've experienced as you've worked with students who's transferred from KCC to the university level?
First of all, I just want to point out, thank you very much for considering me a success story, but I'm going to say I wasn't always a success story. I've actually had to withdraw from classes early on because I got pregnant during my first year. But don't let those things define you. The thing that should define you is what you do afterwards. I've had struggles throughout my journey of going to college, and if you look at the grand scheme of things, yes, it appears that I was a success, but please don't ever sell yourself short if it comes to the point that you are struggling and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through. Don't define yourself by that. Take a deep breath, step back, jump in the water, do whatever you got to do to reset yourself so that you can continue to move forward. Some of the success stories that I've had with our students here at Kauai Community College, we have so many. And honestly, they were the ones that really inspired me to do my master's program, because I had no want. I really had no want to do a bachelor's program. But at that time, I realized that without a bachelor's program, I wouldn't really be able to do much. And my associates wouldn't mean as much as I wanted to, which made me go and do my bachelor's degree. Same with my master's degree. It wasn't something I was planning on doing, but watching the success of our students really encouraged me to do well. One particular student, and she wasn't actually one of my students when I was at Waialeale. She had actually exited the program before I started, but she got her master's degree after I had started working with Waialeale, and she was actually the daughter of one of my dad's really good friend growing up. So I knew her history. Seeing her accomplish her goals and getting her master's degree was just like, wow, if she can do it, I can definitely do it. But we've had so many students who have gone through the most challenging at times, from CPS cases to drug history to incarceration. And the wonderful thing about it is, once they come here and they find their purpose, that no longer defines who they are. That's just a part of their story. I've seen a lot of students who have actually turned their whole family's lives around. We have one particular, she actually works here at Kauai Community College now. After being a mentor for about 8 years, she encouraged her cousins to come to school. And that is quite different than the life that she and her cousins grew up with. So that's an amazing story. We have another student that went through Waialeale and will be graduated this past year, I believe. She was the first in her family to come to college. Her brother ended up joining her, and then their younger brother joined them as well. So a lot of times what we see is that it just takes one person to change the whole dynamic of a family. To me, that's what I want to see. I don't want to really just see a one-off. I want to see people who are going to inspire and empower other people to go through their college journey as well.
Mahalo, Kalei, for highlighting the transformative impact that education can have on the lives of students, their families, and the larger community. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, we always like to end on this question. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or some advice that you would give to a student who is transferring to UH West Oahu?
When I originally saw this question, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go with it, but I knew that God would help me to say the right words. So when it comes to parting words for those who are planning on transferring, don't sell yourself short. Whatever you do, whatever people have told you in the past, I don't care if they told you that college wasn't your thing. You do what you know you can do. And what you can't do, you find the support to get you through it. Because it's not about what you can do as one singular person. It's about what you can do when other people are there to support you and guide you. And we have so many people here at Kauai Community College within the University of Hawaii system that are gonna bend over backwards as long as you show them that you are willing to put in the work. And I know I'm one of them. I know Ephraim's one of them. And I know we have so many other people like Anuhel who will be there to help you throughout your journey. My biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think it's the stupidest question in the world, because I am the queen of stupid questions. But you know what? This is an educational journey that is being paid for, whether by you or your parents or by the federal government. And so you make that journey worth it. And you ask every single question. These people, like myself, like Ephraim, like Anuhel, we're all getting paid for it. We're going to get paid regardless if you ask those questions or not. But it is our job and our passion to see them succeed, because with every success story, it's like a part of us succeeding with you, especially to see students start their college journey here at KCC and see how far they can go. It's just amazing to see when they don't allow themselves to be limited by what people say. I guess my biggest piece of advice and my parting words with you is don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to limit yourself to what other people tell you, and don't be afraid to ask stupid questions, because those are going to be the ones that's really going to allow you to have that successful journey. And maybe I do have one last parting words, and that's when you graduate, walk across that stage. I don't want you guys to be like, oh, nah, it's okay, I don't need to walk, because just that 10 seconds of fame really, to me, is one of the best feelings in the world, not just for the student, but for everybody who has supported you along the way.
You know, this has been life-changing information from top to bottom. So I really want to say mahalo for coming on the podcast, Kalei. And you have an amazing story and such great wisdom from top to bottom, life-changing stuff.
Yeah, mahalo, Kalei. This has been a great time. It's been inspiring for our listeners. Hopefully this will help empower them to build that capacity to overcome life's challenges. And I think if there was an overarching theme that I've been hearing, it's that don't give up, continue to advocate for yourself. And I think that's something that we really need to kind of ingrain so that we can jump into that identity that this is who we can become and this is who we are innately. No matter what the challenges are, there's something deep inside of us that cries out, let's make this happen. So all of our listeners out there, keep putting in the hard work. You're going to get there, and we're going to walk across that stage, and we're all going to be cheering for you. So thank you so much, Kalei. It was a privilege having you here on our podcast. I know our listeners are going to enjoy it as well.
No, Kaho'oli, my pleasure, you folks. And thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity.
Aloha, and welcome back to Transfer Talk. As you know, my name is Travis, and I'm sitting down with my co-host, Dr. Schwab. Homestretch. Wow. It's been a journey and a half, So go ahead and pat yourself on the back. We hope that you have found some insightful information throughout this series and throughout the podcast as a whole. So Dr. Schwab, tell us some of the key takeaways from this series.
So I think the key takeaways from this series includes a recap on the Capstone process, which is the final and most advanced project you will complete at UH West Oahu. And we've also covered your two main culminating project options, which would be either the practicum or your research capstone. We discussed how to register for both by contacting your advisor and making sure you meet the credit requirements, and then reaching out to the professor you want to work with to coordinate the project details. Another step, which isn't as big as those big culminating projects that you will begin to think about, is also preparing for graduation. You're going to have to order your regalia from the bookstore. You have to know what you need in order to take that celebratory walk across that commencement stage. And I think the final key takeaway is solidifying the network of contacts that will help you beyond graduation. And this leads you into things such as internships, graduate school, and career placement. From the very beginning, it's super important to collect the contact information of those whom you've met along the way, because they could be great resources who help facilitate potential career moves post-graduation. So Travis, you are in the thick of this stage right now. As you navigate the home stretch, what mindsets are you embracing to prepare yourself for this culminating moment?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Before I hop into this, let's put a caveat by saying this approach or this mindset is what works for me. Now, for some of the listeners, this might sound completely over the top, a level of intensity that I don't know. Let's just get into it, right? I'm going to turn to one of my favorite inspirational quotes. It comes from Charles Bukowski, the, how shall we put this, provocative poet. He wrote, quote, "If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start." This line forces us to ask a very simple question. Are you in or are you out? You've come so far, made such great progress. This is the home stretch. So it is only logical to go all the way, to make your capstone the absolute best that it can be. It means senioritis is simply not in our vocabulary. It means finish up strong at UH West Oahu and take the highest level of pride in your work. Now, when we pivot over to the very end of your final semester at UH West Oahu, I think it's important to extend a heartfelt mahalo to your professors, to your advisors, the support staff, your peers that you've become friends with, and your family. The point of going to school is not to grind it out with the world on your shoulders. Rather, it's about creating connections, learning from and with each other. So now, more than ever, is the time to express gratitude and thankfulness. Also, as you leave this community, take the lessons that you have learned with you. This fundamentally should not be get it and forget it. Education is a lifelong process. So Dr. Schwab, given that you have reached the peak of higher education, doctoral studies, do you have anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, well, I guess in terms of that accolade, one of the things you learn when you go through your doctoral studies is how much you don't know. You shift from trying to learn everything and thinking you know everything to just coming to the realization that there's so much more to learn. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so if you're going to define success right now in this stage of the program, I just really want to encourage you to embrace the process. Success at this stage is about completing your capstone project and presenting research that you can be proud of. Success can also be simple accomplishments like being proactive in completing your petition to graduate, meeting with your advisor to fill out the petition to graduate form. Also, begin to inquire about ordering your regalia. If you're graduating with distinction, make sure you know what to order. Is there any special club recognition or concentration elements that are included in the graduation ceremony? You can also find this information by checking in with your advisor and ordering it from the bookstore. Finally, defining success includes congratulating yourself for making it this far. After graduation, take some time to reflect on how far you've come. Reward yourself with some rest and relaxation. You deserve it. You've worked hard. And then start putting into action your post-graduation plans, which at this point you should have made some solid contacts and have a solid direction of where your journey may lead to next. And most importantly, take that time to celebrate. You've hit a big milestone. You deserve a pat on the back, and we're all here to congratulate you and say, well done. So Travis, this may be a difficult question because you are heading towards the finish line and still have a few of these final elements to take. What are some practical advice you could give to students inquiring about this home stretch?
Yeah, I think I just have one last thing, and it's something that I have to remind myself of as I head towards the end of my time at West Oahu. Simply put, take some time to really enjoy this stage of the journey. In other words, don't forget to smile. And with that, I want to say aloha. It has been a real honor to walk with you through this podcast journey.
Yes, it has been an honor to be with all of you throughout this podcast series. My final impartation to our listeners is to recognize that embarking on a new stage in your academic journey can be daunting. And I hope these series of podcasts have helped shed light on how to better navigate that journey. I encourage you out there to revisit the specific episodes as needed, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you need clarity on any of the topics covered. You are well on your way to becoming a successful member of the UH West Oahu community, and it has been a pleasure to walk alongside you while you achieve your educational goals. So on that final note, we'll cue the music one last time. Hit it, Travis.
For sure. Mahalo for listening to Transfer Talk. The views and opinions shared by the hosts and any guests are solely theirs and do not reflect the views and opinions of UH West Oahu or Kauai Community College as an institution. If you enjoyed listening to this episode of the podcast, please like, share, comment, and check out all the other episodes. Aloha.